Come on up, Richie. I got a balloon for you. Don't you want a balloon? What's the matter? One balloon, not enough. Try a bitch!
It's the Evil Popcorn Podcast. King Special, Georgie.
Welcome back, children of the popcorn. It is I, Mr. Popcorn, and yes, it is here, finally, the Stephen King special. We are rounding off our season of King with a big group glazing session, mostly. But before we begin down this road, we've got to introduce who is here tonight, and it is I, Mr. Popcorn, of course. And of course, I have the Baron. Baron, how are you?
Mr. Popcorn, I am very well. Thank you for asking. Been a big fan of Stephen King for a very long time. I've been looking forward to doing this. I've got some special information for the children out there for this podcast. So, yes.
Absolutely. And yes, for our new people here who haven't been on before, we call our fans children of the popcorn. So if you're, why are they calling people children? That's why. Okay. Right. And now, all the way from America at 3 a.m. in the morning, the Devil's Hour, none other than High Five Tom Mott Spock. For those who have been following me for a while, me and him covered Romper Stomper during the pandemic. Ooh.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So good to see you again, my friend. Please introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. This is High Five Tom here from the United States. Let's see, Gene and I go way back. It's probably, we've known each other through the internet probably, 8-9 years at this point now?
Was it before the pandemic? Before Gimmick Gang?
I think so. I mean, we didn't know it before the but it was 17, 18, 19, something like that.
No,
But it's been a
you're
while.
right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, very excited. I'm kind of the outsider, which is always awesome. I have not yet been to Australia, but it is on my list. I was supposed to go a couple years ago. My wife does owe me a trip. But I've flown by it. I've been to Indonesia, so I've been close. So one of these days, hopefully we can do all this in person. So looking forward to that.
Just come, Tom, bring your family. We have a shed out the back. Yeah, if your country gets too crazy, come.
Well, it's tempting, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, it's definitely been tempting. It's very interesting over here, we'll just say right now. So
yeah, let's say that indeed. And now, before we get to the bottom of my screen here, we have a new face, a friend I've known for a long time. We caught up at a wonderful metal show called Batushka. Metalhead children out there, if you ever get to see them live, do it. And and wanted to invite them along just because, they're a very cool person, haven't caught up in a while, and very curious what they think about King. Pan, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Pan, long-term horror fan for most of my life. So hopefully I have something to contribute, considering it's been a long time.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will.
Sort of things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this. And last but not least, yes, the modern Russ Meyer himself, Christian Fletcher.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back. And actually, as I was getting ready, I have to show this shirt off.
Please.
As I was getting ready, it's a bit fuzzy.
Come closer to this. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
as I was getting ready, I realized I've been growing this, and I had this curl, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm turning into him. Wouldn't be a bad thing to turn into. Oh shit, that sounds really bad. But yeah, I'm glad that I'm kind of on point with the costuming.
Yeah. And I'm sure we'll bring up your shirt in further deeper details as we go. And I'm sure that's going to come. Now, children, just checking the Facebook Messenger because we have Soxy, the Salacious Slayer, but they are returning home and they will join when they arrive. Yeah. Actually, before I go into my little psychological profile of King himself from a historical perspective, let's just do general thoughts on King. Yeah, let's just start off. What are your personal histories with King in general? How did you feel about him as a kid? If it goes back that far, and how do you feel about him today? Baron, you're Mr. King. Take it away.
I am. So yeah, we'll put a link to it and we might share it. I actually have a autograph from Mr. King himself. The first Stephen King story that I ever read was the here it comes coming up on the screen now.
That's really cool.
That's
Mm.
awesome.
Jealous. Nice.
What's your address, and are you guys available later?
Yes.
It's 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So yeah, the first Stephen King story that I ever read was the Cycle of the Werewolf, which was his collaboration with Bernie Wrightson. So Bernie Wrightson did all the art, Stephen King did all of the writing, and it was made into a film of some quality called Silver Bullet. From there, it came out very soon after that. There was I ran into someone at the pub my parents ran, and he was reading The Stand. So we became fast friends, and we were reading The Stand together. It was so like Stephen King probably informs a lot of my horror choices. Often, if I'm watching a horror movie, I will think to myself, what would this be like had Stephen King written it? Or if it's a Stephen King thing, I will probably think maybe they could have put some more money into this and made it a bit better because he really is the king. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I concur a lot of the times growing up, like the adaptations. I saw that there was so much more within the text, which they are realizing on the screen. And just to carry on, 11 and 12 local library, and I'm talking Greymouth in New Zealand. Yeah, so like the next stop is Antarctica, basically. But of course, this library was full of Stephen King books. Go anywhere in the world and you'll find his books. And I found things like Carrie, I found things like Cujo. And I'll go into Cujo later. But of course, I found the book It, all 1,200 pages of it at 11, 12 years
I'm
old.
still getting over that.
And if you want to basically be introduced to the world of horror and spark off your imagination in dark directions, that's the book to do it. And it did it for me. So it pretty much he laid the groundwork for me being a horror fan, the one who actually cemented that shit. Yeah. Yeah. Pan, what about yourself?
So I've been reading horror since I was a child. I started with stuff like Goosebumps. I think a lot of us did. I had quite a collection. And I think my first adult horror that I read was also R.L. Stine. He did write some horror for adults. And after that one R.L. Stine novel, that's when I found Stephen King. I think I was probably 12 years old. So
Okay.
probably
Nice.
younger than I should have been reading Stephen King. But I just kept going back because he has an incredible imagination. His ideas for universes and situations are so unique and continue to be unique. Like every idea is different to what most other people are doing. Now, this is where I be a contrarian because I don't think anything ever is perfect. I think he has a habit of over elaborating at times. It is a great example of that. I think you could cut that down by a third and you wouldn't have been losing anything of importance. And I also think that, because of that, I think I've enjoyed his short stories more than his full-length novels at times. And I also think that there's a lot of times where the endings don't live up to the premise in terms of quality. In saying so, I am definitely a fan. I might have some negative things to say about him, but that's just my general thoughts on Stephen King.
Balanced critique, like that. Balanced critique, absolutely. Now, from Stephen King's home country, what's the American perspective on? What's Tom's perspective, I should say? You don't represent America as a one singular person, one singular body. What's your
at least I
perspective
hope
there,
not.
Tom?
Probably pretty similar. He's very, very prolific, obviously. I mean, just for doing the consistent quality that he's been doing for as long as he's been doing it. I mean, his Carrie came out 3 years before I was born. I'm about to be 50 years old in a couple years.
It's
Um,
great. Crazy.
And listen, I agree a lot with Pam. Listen, his biggest issue is ending. Sometimes it seems like he's gotten a little better as he's gotten old. And sometimes he does get to wrapped up in himself a little bit.
Mm, mm.
And he's addressed that. I did actually even also my wife and I both read On Writing, his nonfiction book about his process.
I want to read
Which
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good read, and especially because it's towards the tail end addresses the accident.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely definitely a delineation there of like pre-accident and after accident King. But yeah, here I mean he's definitely he is I mean he is the king. His last name, and I don't think he actually ever even met his father, ironically enough. And I think, we'll get into it a little bit later, but I think just his
Yeah. Okay.
humility,
Yeah.
he grew up very, very, very poor.
Mhm.
And listen, as an author initially, it took him a while to get going, and he's never ever forgotten his roots. Which is, we'll
Mm,
address like on
mm.
his longevity, but yeah, it's the same thing here. Like I said, he's, very prolific and he's very good at what he does, and his influence to this day is, felt everywhere,
Oh,
within the
absolutely.
horror, yeah, within the horror genre. And like I said, and he's gotten older. He's gotten less and less horror, and some people may not like that. I tend to enjoy some of like his sci-fi, or he's even doing like a detective series and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, so just the way he's been like, not to pull it back to like Chris Jericho, but reinvent himself over the years. So
Wasn't expecting Jericho's name to be mentioned of all people, but I like it. I like it. We've got Soxy waiting in the waiting room. So what I'll do is I'll just do yours, Fletcher, then bring them in to do theirs. Yeah. Fletcher, please take it away.
Oh wow! Actually, I wanted to echo some of the things that Pan said. Actually, because I think the first King experience I had was it, and it was not at school, but as you said, in the local library. And I remember going, "Oh, 1,500 pages, really?" And I think I got to 1,000 and went, "Oh, okay." This was around the time when the 1990 Tim Curry adaptation, which I found better than the new movies. Don't ask me about the new movies, but anyway. And that was the one that was that era there. So I was so disappointed with it. So I think that was my introduction to it. But I think Pan summed it up really well. Have you noticed a lot of the Stephen King adaptations that are happening more recently are short stories because he can manage to compact the idea.
Yeah.
And also, too, I think a lot of the concepts aren't filmic. I don't know if that's the word to use. And like Carrie, like one of, the first adaptation, it almost is a short story the way it's written,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
works. And what was the other one? The Shining, obviously. But it's funny how Stanley Kubrick goes, I just read a few pages of it. I got the idea, but he still manages to get the plot points. So I think he read more than he thought, but
Yeah.
that was a bit of a tangent there, which is funny because you think Stephen King would be all over the whole Kubrick style, but he had just come off Barry Lyndon, so it might not have been a good time.
Yeah. Okay.
But
No,
so that's where I'm coming from, the movie version. So I was mentioning earlier is the book version, but for me, Carrie, The Shining, and Misery are the three best film adaptations. I don't care what King says. And I think it's because it had the horror. You mentioned, Baron, earlier about less horror. We associate King with horror, so when he doesn't have it, especially in the movie versions, you go, But I do like how he taps into what I call the suburban horror. Horror can happen underneath and sometimes be a manifestation of things that are happening. And sometimes it's not, as I said, filmic. You can't show a lot of those emotions on film or situations unless they're horror related, where someone's chopping someone's feet off, like in Misery. The hobbling scene was tame. In the book, she chops his feet off.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
Okay. No.
Introduce our next guest.
Baron, say that again.
She chops his feet off with an electric carving knife.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
brutal.
we'll get into it later, but that unfilmic, unable to be filmed because the imagination's too wild. There is a rambling aspect. We'll touch on it later on, but we're dealing with like heavy addiction, and it's a heavier addictive personality, and it went further than just alcohol and coke. There was a lot more things involved for a long, long time. Just to put a pin in it now, he does not remember misery, the creation of misery at all.
Wow.
At all.
Well, it was tapping into probably something he was experiencing. I'm not saying he had a fanatic fan at the time. Well, sorry, had a fanatic at the time. But yeah, you could see someone tripping out and experiencing that and thinking that they have a number one fan. Well, he would have had a number one fan, but not to that extent, possibly.
But we'll get into misery. That will be discussed. But let's not leave Vanessa waiting any longer. That's Soxy. Bring them in. Hello, Soxy.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. And what we've just done is I've done the introduction, and we're all five of us have done our personal history on King, where we started, what we feel about him in general. And so to start us off, would you like to give yours?
Yes. Well, woo.
Yeah, welcome.
Yes. Hi, great to be here. I suppose my personal history with Stephen King, I guess would have all started when I was a child. I watched the It miniseries at a far too young age, as most of us did, and really left an impression. I really love that clown.
Yes, I like him too. And please, there, Soxy, you have Pan from Brisbane here, and high five Tom from America. And you haven't met Christian. Yeah, Christian, this is Soxy.
Hi, good to meet you.
Hey, you
Cool.
meet you too.
Okay, cool. So what I'll do, and anyone, basically this is just what I've got of YouTube videos and Wikipedia for the history to create the psychological profile. If there's any glaring contradictions or anything anyone wants to throw in, please go for it. Yeah, just shout out. Yeah, I'll make it work. Okay, so I think it was Tom who said difficult childhood. Yes, absolutely. That's basically the chapter title for his first stage, his first era of life. He realized early on that life is not a sugar donut. That's a quote from the man himself there. He was born Stephen Edwin King, born September the 21st, 1947, at Maine General Hospital, Portland, Maine. That's the big place, Maine. Now, Mother Nellie Ruth Pillsbury King was considered infertile, and King had to wear heavy, thick glasses from near birth. Classic King glasses, that's pretty much been his whole life, yeah? Now, we've got other family members here, of course. Just going to bring them up now. You've got Donald Edwin King. That was his brother. That seemed to be his basically his right-hand man, best friend growing up, because they opened up a couple of papers together. They were both interested in literature, but from different angles. Then you have Tabitha King, the wife, of course, yes, who was once Tabitha Spruce, who has stayed with her. They've stayed together to this day, yeah. And then you've got Owen King. He's another writer. And Tabitha King is a writer, poet. She is just a very deeply literary person herself.
A legend.
Absolutely.
If we didn't have Tabitha, we wouldn't have Stephen King.
We wouldn't have Stephen King.
He fished Harry out of the bin when he wrote half of it and said, this won't work. Sorry to interject, but I just want to give Tabitha some praise.
Absolutely. She was the one who pulled out the carpet from his writer's studio at one point. And then I mentioned the alcohol, the cocaine, the Xanax, the Adderall, the spoons with blood and mucus and other things on them. And that's what I say. He was on everything.
No wonder he wrote those books.
Yeah. Okay, now before we get to a writer who's put out a couple of films of recent times, excuse me, we've got Naomi King. Naomi King's not a writer. Naomi is a reverend. Do you know much about Naomi there, Barrett? Do you want to speak on Naomi?
No, I know more about Joe Hill / Joe King. than I do about Naomi, only because Naomi's not really horror adjacent, other than her adjacency physically to Stephen.
Yep, yep, yep. And just quickly here, Naomi King, Reverend Naomi King. She teaches spiritual practices online, yes?
Yeah.
And as a activist as well.
I mean,
For the
the
track.
far from the tree.
Yeah, absolutely. And the activism, of course, let me say this here. Naomi Rachel King, born June the 1st, 1970, eldest child of authors Stephen and Tabitha. Private individual. She works as a Unitarian Universalist minister in Florida, a gay activist, and previously managed a business in Maine. Unlike her siblings, she is not a published author. And of course, we've got Joe Hill, Mr. Blackphone.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Amongst other things.
Amongst other things, of
All
course.
sorts of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but making a name for himself now. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
and
cool.
God, he looks like his dad.
Oh yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Okay.
a friend of mine lives in New Hampshire, which for obviously most people listening to this are from Australia, so New Hampshire's not that far from Maine. But yeah, Joe Hill
Okay.
used to go into his bakery all the time. So he's met Joe Hill a couple times in Lake Barron, so he looks a lot like his dad. So yeah, and I just picked up I picked up one of his graphic novels to kind of dig into that one of these days. So yeah, Joe Hill's very prolific, and I just like how his daughter, her rebellion is to become a reverend.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny, You're usually the opposite of what your parents want you to be. So
Okay, so I was mentioned before, Dad went out for cigarettes and never came back. That classic. Yeah. Back in the day, Dad activity. Stephen was 2 years old. Yeah. Okay, so that, I'm creating, just think their children, what this is doing towards Stephen King, the writer. It's helping grow Stephen King, the writer. That's the purpose of this. Also, King, when young, watched a friend hit by a train to death.
Ooh.
When he was 12, no one, including Stephen at age 60, whatever, he doesn't want to talk about it to this day. None of the family members did. He didn't. So that's very hush-hush. He won't say anything about it. That's going to affect you. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's rhetorical. What I found interesting, just to throw this out there, a tidbit, of course, we have Clive Barker, who was my other fave author growing up, like 90s kids who know who that is. He's Mr. Hellraiser, if you don't. They used the parachutes, when you jump out of a plane, when the parachute fails and would drop, used to be called a Roman candle back in the day. That's how he describes it, because Barker's an old gentleman. And he saw a man plummet to death Roman candle style in front of him at an air show. That's why the man has birds forever in his visual paintings. Yeah. And so that very similar kind of like something was sparked in the brain through this horrific tragedy, seeing death up close and graphic. Now, King and David, the brother, were raised by nannies. And this is where Stephen King read everything from Nancy Drew to Psycho. His favorite was Richard Matheson's The Shrinking Man. We've all heard of that, yeah?
Copy of it on my shelf.
There you go. But point being, he's starting to form his love of comic books as well as movies, horror in particular. Yeah. He's into books, but he's really focusing on those two things at this stage. He's about 13, 14 here. Baron, help me. Do you know this? Fave comic book characters when young, Plastic Man and Woozy Winks.
Yes. So from the Plastic Man comic, Plastic Man is the hero. Woozy Winks is his sidekick. Woozy Winks didn't have any powers, and he was generally the grit in the oyster that started the adventure. So Woozy would go and do something stupid. Plastic Man would have to come and bail him out.
Okay, this is interesting because when we get into when he started writing short stories, there's a whimsical cuteness to it at the start, to his very early beginning writings. Yeah, but I'll get there. Now, cleaning the attic at home, one day Stephen King found a box of his father's old comic books and horror novels. It is here that he states that his love for the literature and the writing craft of horror properly began. So you've got H.P. Lovecraft collection from 1947. called The Lurking Fear. This is from the box that he found. Said it was a treasure trove and other stories. I was on my way. Lovecraft, courtesy of my father, opened the way for me. So that's pretty cool. H.P. Lovecraft had an influence there that pleased me just personally. Can we see that in his writings? Lovecraft influence at all?
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Pan, what do you reckon?
Maybe in some of the concepts, but I don't think necessarily in the writing style so much.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, because
I'm
he's
thinking
nowhere as ornamental as Lovecraft.
And the era he grew up in, I'm thinking more. What's the Hammer? Is it Hammer Horror? The British film Dead of Night. I'm thinking all those kind of 40s black and white sort of films would have had a bit of an influence on him. So not so much the Lovecraftian, but he's probably got more of I'll keep mentioning it, the suburban way of bringing it into our world. Lovecraft's always been a bit out there for me, but Stephen King could bring a similar concept into something that we could relate to. Is accessible.
He has the science fiction thing going on there with the shrinking man and almost a superhero element with the plastic man and woozy winks at the same time. So it's interesting how these different things are bubbling away at this stage. All right, so he started writing 6, 7 years old. This is when he actually started putting pen to paper. He would copy pictures from his favorite comic books and then create tales based on the images.
Yeah.
In addition, he loved movies and acquired a strong ability to think in images and pictures. He said when he was young, this was very vibrant in his mind. Yeah. Movies on the television for King when young were the only crack in the boring facade that was his reality. Tales from the Crypt was his first cinematic motivation to scare people in his own work. Yeah. Not just write down what's in his mind, but actually have an intent for the reader. Yeah. This was, a motivation. Now, at 11, King was moved to Durham, Maine, to live with his maternal grandparents. Durham, okay, thank you. Where mother Nellie cared for them up to their passing. His mother was amazing. His mother at this stage, like dad run away. She works in a school basically near full time to look after the kids. She really helped Stephen King get through the early stage of dad disappearing. She came there, as I said, Nellie cared for the maternal grandparents up to their passing. So not only looking after these kids as a single mum, she's caring for the terminally ill grandparents, or her parents, I should say. During this time, Stephen King was bed-stricken by measles, which led to a sore throat, which then affected his ears. His max temperature reached 104 Fahrenheit. Tom, you know exactly what I mean there.
That's hot.
It's hot. It's not Celsius, yeah?
What's that in regular people measurements?
Baron, could you look that up? I've got a million on tabs.
I think 42-ish.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
Okay.
Was it 102?
102.
104, wasn't it?
104. And while you do that, he said with every sip of water, his brain would flicker and flash like a light bulb.
It's 40.
40 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Oh yeah, we got to loosen our ties in high school. I'm going to cut to 40. I loved that. The joys of being in a private school.
The intendant, the Durham doctor, examined his ear, and then proceeded to lance his goddamn eardrum.
Oh.
So he's not only sick with this fever from hell, measles, started off with measles. Doctor accidentally lances his eardrum, and then he had to have both ears lanced again 2 times. Not the eardrums, but lanced again. So that's 3 times, yeah?
Yeah.
Stephen King fucking hates doctors to this day.
I can understand why.
They're all Annie Wilkes to him.
Yeah. And point of this is like Stephen King doesn't really like society. He doesn't really trust adults or the system at this point. Yeah. Now, because he suffered maltreatment. Now, does this show up in his works? Medical maltreatment.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Doctors are a big method of evil in his stories.
Okay, there you go.
And think about Misery. Annie Wilkes is an ex-nurse who had done all these horrible things. So it was almost like, imagine being trapped by your number one fan, and she happens to be someone of the medical profession.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and like in Eddie and It, you know, and obviously the doctor that abused him, you know, is a big thing with the asthma container and everything. So, you know,
Okay,
as Eddie being a very sick kid himself, you know, in that movie or in the book. So also in the
Yeah.
movie, but yeah.
Nice linkage, people. Nice linkage. All right. The sickness and maltreatment took him out of school where he deeply indulged in reading. Yeah. So life seems to be taking him back to sequester him to his literature and his writing. Yeah. Books and tons of comics. Tom Swift, Jack London stories for kids, until he eventually found William Goulding's Lord of the Flies. Yeah. And he said this was his first serious novel, which actually is able to appreciate the art of literature. And he started aping it in his first attempts at serious writing. Gave it to his mother. His mother, like, she was shocked at first, but she knew she obviously had a talented young writer on her hands because she also liked the shocking aspect. She was kind of scared by it. This is enticing, what you've got going on here. So she gave him King his first notebook and said he could do better to motivate him. And he kept going because of that. In response to his mother's wishes, King composed his first 4-page short story about magic animals where the main character was a bunny called Mr. Rabbit Trick. How cute is that shit?
Have they ever published that?
I don't know.
I'm sure it's fine.
Scott?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I can't wait for the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, actually, Osgood, you did the monkey, do the rabbit. Yeah. Okay. And I tried to find an image, but it's just a whole bunch of rabbits next to a birthday cake, and I don't know what the real Mr. Rabbit Trick looks like. Yeah. Now, point being, King wrote 4 more of these, and he earned a quarter. That's 25 cents Australian children for each one. Stephen King made his first dollar at 8 years old. Now, keep in mind, Stephen King making money through horror as we progress. He received his first typewriter, a Royale, from his mother. Yep, Nellie. Secondhand, but King absolutely loved it. And I think about the Shining typewriter. Is that a Royal? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant.
He held up production on Misery for I think 3 or 4 days while they found one for Paul to use in the film.
Yeah.
Okay.
That matched his childhood typewriter.
What a perfect,
Scott, is it, sorry, Baron, is it Royale or just Royal?
Royal.
That's Royal.
It's a Royale with cheese.
Yeah, it doesn't have
That's true. That's true. All right. Now, he is really glad he became a writer before the advent of television. I do want to share this quote by him because he says it the best. That is it. Yep. Okay, we can see that. There we go. I am, when you stop to think of it, a member of a fairly select group, the final handful of American novelists who learn to read and write before they learn to eat a daily helping of video bullshit. This might not be important. On the other hand, if you're just starting out as a writer, you could do worse than strip your television's electric plug wire, Stephen King, wrap a spike around it, and then stick it back into the wall, see what blows and how far. Now, why
I was going to say, it reminds me of the new Running Man movie. Am I spoiling things? But as soon as you said with all the televisions, I don't know. It just reminded me of that.
And it also shows that
older people talking about, back in my day before the internet.
We were there.
Yeah.
The good old days.
I showed that there was he wanted to, I think he wanted to situate himself as a serious American novelist, and he's looking at people like Norman Mailer. What's the one that you guys all had to read in school there about the one? Not One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. J.D. Salinger.
Catcher in the Rye.
Thank you. That sort of thing. He wants to. Yeah, I think he's got a desire to be seen in that light. That's just my theory, throwing that out there.
Yeah, and he says to this day that Lord of the Flies is still his favorite book of all time.
Yeah, okay. And that's a serious book. It's a great book. It's a serious book. All right.
Just as an aside, there's a TV series has just come out this week of Lord of the Flies as well.
Really?
So
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's eight or 10 episodes.
Okay.
I believe it dropped binge worthy, so they dropped all of the episodes in one go.
Have you seen it yet?
No, I think it only started. Only dropped this week. I saw ads for it last week, and then I saw it. I think yesterday or today.
What platform?
Oh, good question. Let me have a look. Keep going, Mr. Popcorn.
Yep. Thank you.
I do love, Baron, that you look like Stephen King's just behind you, like
waiting. Just watching.
That's all I think.
Okay. Now at 12, King sent his first story to a publisher, to Forrest J. Ackerman's Famous Monsters of Filmland. Bringing up an image now, good old Price on the cover. Okay, don't know if any of yous recognize that one, that cover there, this magazine.
Famous Monsters of Filmland. Forrest Ackerman's publication.
That's it. Yeah, that's where he sent his first attempt at being published as a story. That was his first attempt. Yeah.
I do apologize. It looks like it's only 4 episodes. It is on Stan and Apple TV.
Okay, cool. I've got Apple. I can do that. Brilliant. Thank you, Baron. Okay, first published story, 1965 in Mike Garrett's, that's not Mick Garrett, that is Mike Garrett's sci-fi horror magazine, Amazing Stories. It was originally called I Was a Teenage Grave Robber, which is fun. It was published under the title, they actually helped him create this title, In a Half World of Terror, a bit more serious. But he was awarded a Scholastic Writing and Art Award for it. Yeah, so he's started to be lauded now at an early age. Okay, now, this is when we're getting into cheeky Stephen King, like F you to the man, Stephen King. The King brothers published a school paper called Dave's Rag. They printed 5 copies for family and friends initially. They increased their output to 50 to 60 copies twice a month. King's story, The Pit and the Pendulum, yes, it's called The Pit and the Pendulum, inspired by horror cinema, helped it to sell really well. That was the main selling point. He sold them at school for a quarter and made up to $10 a day. You got to think about how, back then, it was then King understood how to make money out of fiction. I'll throw it out there. This is when Stephen King, the capitalist, was born. Yes? Yeah. Was made editor-in-chief of school newspaper The Drum in his senior year. This is with David again, the brother. I've talked about their kind of publication history together. King wasn't a fan. He warped it into the highly satirical and on-the-nose Village Vomit. It has gone from The Drum, which was very much, hear all about it, banging the drum, come, blah, 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 old style, to the Village Vomit, very punk middle finger. Was almost expelled on stage at school after organizing a roast of the faculty members, which is amazing, but had his energy smartly redirected by appointing him as a sports reporter for Weekly Enterprise newspaper. Baron, the King likes sports, yeah?
Yeah, he does like sports.
He's a big sports Scott. Sorry, Tom.
Baseball in particular.
Baseball in particular. Okay.
Big Boston Red Sox fan. So I mean, nobody's perfect, I guess, but I mean, it's better than the Yankees. So,
and if anyone's interested, and you can get your hands on it, the short stories that he wrote for the Dave's Rag were collected in a collection called Secret Windows, I think. It didn't get an international release. It was a book of the month club, I think. So it was kind of a companion to Stephen King's On Writing.
Tell Hollywood, I think, because nowadays, is it just me or and I'm not against this, but they seem to be adapting any short story or any book of Stephen King they can get their hands on.
We'll get to that.
Okay, cool. Nice.
We're getting another Carrie, and I fucking love, I love Carrie, but do we need another one? I remember seeing the 2013 version at the cinemas, and my friend goes, yeah, I'm cool to go and see it, but yeah, she gets bullied, pig's blood, she kills everybody. Do I need to see it again? But we're getting a mini series.
It's Mike Flanagan, Fletcher. It is Flanagan.
I know. I'm interested, but I'm interested to see how it fleshes out. I want to see more of a backstory, possibly for Carrie's mum. Stuff that was cut out of the book.
Yeah, the religious aspect.
But I just feel we do have a lot of Carrie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is one of the most beloved and perhaps one of the most overdone. You have a point. Now, in 1966, King enrolled in the University of Maine. Yes, we're still in Maine. He worked in a spinning and weaving factory. He hated it. Why I mention that, I'll get back to that in a second. King, 19 and
the night shift.
Exactly.
The mangler.
Yeah, exactly. King was in 1967, when he was 19, he sold the Glass Floor to Startling Mystery Stories for $35.
Yep.
The amount's starting to go up, yeah? The magazine Cavalier, which helped this man out a lot, bought the story for $200. This is in 1967. That's $2,000 today. I don't know about you, but if I sold a short story for $2,000 today, I'd be very fucking happy. King was now rich and delighted. Okay. Now, going back to the spinning and weaving factory. This is July 20th, 1967. I call it the choice. He worked in this factory. Every staff member could have a week off without pay or be part of the cleaning crew. Stephen took the day off. He came back on Monday, didn't take the week off. He took the day off, not because he was privy to any information. It's just what he decided to do. Excuse me. He came back on Monday and was regaled by a fellow workmate on the size, mass, and the ferocity of the rats living in this basement, and also the number. You can't leave that out. This affected King. The rats were purportedly the size of a medium dog. Yeah, this stuck in his mind. Yeah, and Baron also, alluded to the stories that came out of that. Yep. Has anyone seen a rat the size of a dog?
No.
Oh, sure.
Sorry?
A chihuahua, sure.
Okay, yes. Yes, a chihuahua, possibly. Yeah.
I was going to pick my dog up that's right next to me, but he's asleep. I can't do that.
When I was ghost touring at Boggo Road Jail and Jack was there, I was basically shadowing him one night, right outside the front gates. I was behind the crowd, the customers shadowing. Jack was doing his thing, and then from around the corner comes this. It wasn't a dog, it was either a rat or a possum the size of a small dog, just walking straight at me. I'm from New Zealand, children. We do not have these things. I was terrified.
Sorry, he woke up. I didn't wake him up. There's my rat. He's like, are we going to talk about Cujo? Sorry, not at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I'll get through this. Whilst working at the uni's Raymond H. Fogler Library, Stephen met his wife, Tabitha. They worked together at the library, and he fell in love with her at a poetry cinema. He fell in love with her poem, her reading, and thought she was very pretty. He was besotted. And the rest is history regarding those two. But we must mention that on 1970, June the 1st, Naomi Rachel King was born. Tabitha and Stephen married in 1971. 1972, Joe King, Black Phone came along. Now, back to the laundry. Stephen King would receive linen from the local laundry. Yes, this linen, he described it as wormy, blood-sodden, blood-soaked, writhing, also littered with metal objects and vessels, and at one time teeth. And blood-soaked clothing, laundry, dirt, sewage, rats, teeth, thematically litter his early works. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and from there on as well. Ironically, though, his home laundry became his writer's studio at home at the same time. Yeah. So he's going to experience horror, and then he's basically going back to kind of get back to that environment to try and inspire himself to create that horror. This is just what I'm reading from
and
these
did you
events,
say this, was this in the basement of the house, did you say?
Yeah.
I'm getting Boiler Room, Shining.
Yeah. All this.
To use an example that's really weird in terms of King, but think of Home Alone, the boiler room downstairs where they're too scared to go down.
Yeah, sure.
So it makes me think, I wonder if that signified something to him. Yeah.
Boiler room, bars, that's a thing. There's famous boiler rooms in your country there, Tom, as well. So I'm just, imagination's running away with me. Okay, 1979, hired as a teacher at Hampton Academy, Hampton, Maine. He continued to write, and 2 significant drafts completed. The Long Walk, under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. Great fucking film. And The Sword in the Darkness. Baron, have you ever heard?
listen to the podcast that we did on the long walk as well. And just while I'm here, what you probably saw, Mr. Popcorn, based on the location of Boggo Road Jail, was what's called a rakali. And they are often referred to as an Australian water rat. They can grow up to 70 centimeters in length, including the tail, weigh over a kilogram, and make them about the size of a small dog or platypus.
That's exactly what I saw, bro. We do not see this in a water rat. Jesus Christ, Australia. Anyway. Okay, now 1979.
That was the Baron's crypto psychology corner.
You slipped it in. Lovely. Love it. Do you know The Sword in the Darkness? Anyone ever heard of that story?
Never heard of it. It'll be a movie. As I was saying, they adapt everything.
That's going to
become... He's written 2 pages that he sent to somebody. That'll be a movie in 5 years.
Well, Fletcher, The Long Walk is technically the first novel that he wrote, yeah? But it was basically it was stashed away for later on. He wrote it when he was 19 to impress a girl. So that's been made into a very, kind of successful movie. It was released at the wrong time when the world was going to chaos. Yeah. So The Sword in the Darkness. Point being, that's number 2.
One of those things where you see adapted from a book by Stephen King and people go, let's go and see that. Clever.
So The Sword in the Doughnut, I think that's going to become a reality, a filmic reality in the future, absolutely. But the point being of all this teaching wore him out, and he seriously questioned writing and becoming a writer for the first time. He didn't want to be the tweed jacket, the elbow pads on the tweed jacket. He didn't want to become that old fuddy-duddy. But of course, Tabitha was there to keep him going. He then began to write. The ideas for Carrie began to form. He wrote 3 pages for the Cavalier magazine. That's Cavalier again, on his wife's typewriter, Tabitha. But after assessing the first 3 pages, canned it, trashed it. Yeah, hated it. He felt he could not successfully nor truthfully write from a female perspective. That was his big issue, his big holdup. Tabitha retrieved them from the trash, these 3 pages, and implored him to continue the work. She promised to add the necessary female perspective. Remember that she is a poet, and implored him to continue the work. She promised to add the necessary female perspective. Sorry. Also, King knew an abused girl and a timid religious girl in the local area, and he put the 2 together as a conflation of the character of Carrie, and the rest is history. So that's...
Anytime that there's a strong female character in a Stephen King novel, you can guarantee that that's got Tabitha's thumbprints all over it.
Okay, that's really cool. That's good
to know. And even if it wasn't something where she was contributing to him, the female character, every time he was writing something, she instilled something in him from that book onwards to be aware of, which is so clever.
Yeah. Thank you, Tabitha. Sincere.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thanks for fishing that out of the beard. Not just for King, but it's one of my favorite movies.
For the children out there as well, track down her books. Tabitha King is actually a really good author. I would specifically point towards a book called Small World, which is a bit more sci-fi, but it goes back to that the shrinking man thing. So basically, the basic premise of this is there are people that get shrunk down and they live in a doll's house.
Okay.
So it goes back to the Richard Matheson book, which is obviously an influence by Stephen on her writing.
There you go. And just to finish it off, because this is quite beautiful, talked about Nellie, another amazing female in Stephen King's life that kept him not only going, but goddamn alive. Upon her deathbed, her sister Evelyn, she was too ill to read the book herself, read Carrie to her. Upon conclusion, upon finishing with a tear in her eye, Nellie said, "My son wrote that." Finish. And then the books. That's where I got up to the history, just for the early Stephen King as a writer. Create a bit of a kind of psychological, historical perspective there. Scott, or anyone else, is there anything else that you think that I've missed, or that you know of that I haven't mentioned for the early King years?
Well, the only thing I will mention is Stephen King has said that The Sword in the Darkness is unpublishable.
Oh.
Okay, so there's never been any release of it at all.
He shopped it to 12 different publishing houses, and they all said no. It's 150,000 words. He finished it in about 1970. and it's about race riots and that sort of thing. And yeah, he considers it unpublishable.
Well, I hate to say it, but it'll probably end up once he passes, and Tabitha as well. It'll be something we might see then.
Unless we Pratchett situation where he puts in his will, anything left in my writer's trunk is to be burnt.
Oh my God. Good point.
He didn't say he couldn't copy it first before burning, but we'll see.
Don't do it, Stephen.
But I had mentioned in our group chat for this, being in the States, my wife and I, for the first time, went to Bangor, Maine, last fall for the first time. We did the Stephen King tour, and they actually, you go by the high school that Tabitha went to, that Stephen King actually toured to write Carrie to kind of get the feel of the female locker room and, everything going on from that perspective. And I actually read Carrie for the first time this fall. I hadn't read it before, and I was pleasantly surprised. This is your first novel. It was a lot different than I thought it was going to be, because you just think, I'm like, oh, she gets some pig's blood dropped on her and everybody dies. But there's so much more to that book. I was pleasantly surprised.
That's why I'm looking forward to the TV series, because I'm hoping they delve into it. In the book, it's all done like police reports, and they're interviewing all the girls about what happened. I just hit my hand. I was that excited. So I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm glad you got to.
And I even have my own little Carrie coaster here that I got from that Stephen King tour. So if you guys can see it, so I was pleasantly, and I saw that, and then I watched the movie afterwards, and because obviously Sissy Spacek, but I think the character he wrote her was not to be this guy, but a bit larger, and Sissy Spacek is obviously not very large. So I was pleasantly surprised. There's a lot more to that book than you hear, going forward. So.
Yeah, if you want to check a Carrie, sorry, Baron. Sorry. If you want to check a Carrie, I never know what to say. 2002, they did a mini series in two episodes.
Yeah.
How was that?
The only problem, it was good. The only problem is they were expecting to get a mini series out of it. So don't want to spoil it, but Carrie kind of has a driving off to the sunset Thelma and Louise moment. Setting up, so ignore that. But yeah, watch I think it's probably on YouTube. Go to 2002 because it's pretty much very faithful to the book.
Has anyone here seen the musical?
No.
There's a musical.
I've seen it, and it's actually real. Now that they've worked it out, it's really good. Like in the early days, it was really weird. But I saw a production probably about 6 years ago at the people in Brisbane will know the Brisbane Powerhouse. And I was pretty impressed with it actually, but it's kind of hard to replicate the experience.
How was the bucket of blood? How was the pig's blood?
Let's just say you can't replicate the prom scene as well as you can in the movie. That's what I'm going to say.
Someone put on a production here in Perth, and they had fake blood pouring all over and stuff. It was really good, and it's one that I'm surprised we don't have a film adaptation of yet. I would like to see it. I don't think it would be great. I think it would be kind of cheesy and silly, but it's one I want to see.
Hey, if they can get away with doing stuff with Glee and the Rocky Horror Picture Show remake, the Glee Rocky Horror, that can just carry the musical.
Absolutely.
Repo exists and is one of the greatest things ever. So,
I love Repo.
Yeah. One thing that King does like to do is he does like to link stuff together. So keep in mind that Carrie is linked to the Dead Zone, is linked to Firestarter, and to the recent TV series The Institute. So they are all part of that.
In that same sort of world. I always wondered about the Firestarter connection.
Yeah. Because in Firestarter, it's more explicit that there is a secret, shadowy government organization that is tracking down children with abilities.
Okay.
So there's a thing through the fan communities that Carrie goes off to.
I
love that though.
So it's all joined together.
Nice. Yeah, because Firestarter's coming up on my to be read list. It's 2-3 books away, so I'm excited. And obviously there's a rather pop culture influence in that, in recent, Netflix series. Obviously.
Don't watch the new movie.
I heard that.
I can't believe Zac Efron was the dad, so that was all that took me out of it straight away. But yeah, I don't know about the new one, but
I've heard it's awful.
The new one. Yeah. He loves telekinesis in his books.
And that's what we discovered with the Welcome to Dairy season. There's no spoilers, Pan, do not worry. But for me, I realized how interconnected these various Stephen King universes are. Yeah, cinematically and literally. Yeah, literarily. You know what I mean? But along those lines that we're starting to get in our fave Stephen King properties, let's start with the books, because that's where it kind of is the basis for the films and, King himself. Children, we're not doing the top five. It doesn't have to be in any particular order there, cast tonight if you haven't done that. But let's just do our top three books, just throw all three out there. Baron, we'll start with you.